I'm Ryan, the CEO and founder of Influential. I'm very excited to talk to intersection. It's culture, it's sports, it's fashion, it's utility of all the sports we love so much. And I wanted to kick it off by a great stat or great line that I heard, which is every single NFL point has been scored by a Wilson official football. So we got legacy on top of legacy there. How do you take some of that and apply it to all things related to different leagues, to kids, the next generation that doesn't not know about that history that exists for all of us?
I think number one, what the partnership demonstrates is that we're played at the pinnacle of the sport. And I think that's a message that kids or youth or anyone who's picking up a ball for the first time can kind of really latch onto, is play with the pros play. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. In terms of industry, I think what it does is show that, since 1941, we've been partnered with the league. I believe it's the longest standing sport partnership in sports history. And that then cues to other partners like the NBA or the NCAA that we are really good at this. We not only know how to do it from a service perspective, but also from a product perspective. And so I think it's a nice consumer story, but it's also a good trade story at the same time.
And you're across every league. Yeah, is it the officials?
Yep. We like to lovingly say we're the official ball of almost everything. NBA, NCAA, AVP, and forgetting some big ones like the US Open, Roland Garros, and of course the NFL.
Well, you guys work together, and Dave and we've got an amazing agency for creative, for strategy. Tell us about how you've applied that knowledge with Wilson on the strategy side, and how it's led into the creative excellence you guys are known for.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying we're great. We like to think that we are. It's better when other people say it. We have a long history in sport in general. Our founders played ball. Our current global CEO was a college athlete. A lot of us have been involved. And then, if you think about the clients we have, the NFL is we're the AOR for the NFL. We work with a variety of football teams. We have a streaming service that Paramount Plus. We do work for them. So we get sport at a kind of grassroots guttural level. And when you can understand sport fans, you can understand the strategy involved in helping brands that are affiliated with sports really thrive. And so Wilson's just another extension of that, because most of our work at this point is strategic, and we'll move into creative at a different point in time.
And as just going to follow up that, so obviously NFL for many years. Is it something where you're mirroring what you're seeing? Is it something where you guys try to kind of operate in lockstep? Is it completely separate and different than the leagues itself? Obviously, you're all putting it's a similar product in the field. It's what you guys are in there. Is it something where you think you're similarly trying to be inside a culture? How do you think about the NFL comparison to Wilson?
Yeah, it's interesting. They're all different businesses. Sport is the part that connects them in some way. But the NFL business is a completely different monster. They have absolutely separate and independent goals and KPIs. So all of our work with them focuses on that. When it comes to Wilson, they have a very particular separate thing they're trying to accomplish with building the brand of Wilson. Like, all of us know what Wilson is. But when we say, what is Wilson, what comes to your mind first? This is a question for you all. A ball, probably. Right?
Castaway.
Oh, exactly. A specific ball related to a specific movie. And I think, Amanda has some thoughts about that, right?
I was just sharing that one of my, more fun KPIs I've given myself is we're a 110-year-old brand, but you're absolutely right, the castaway ball comes up a lot. And my KPI is to move that further down the list. I want to be known for something that's already out there, like the NFL game ball or what we do in tennis. But yes, that's still an iconic bestseller for us, which is crazy after 20 plus years.
So ways to potentially move that down the list is tapping into social media, creators. How do you think about building community, brand loyalty, on these platforms? And is that something that you guys are working together on? I'd love to hear from both of you.
We are in the throes of it as we speak, in fact. And I think for us, I said 110-year-old brand, we're really looking for a way to connect the dots across who we are in different sports categories. So what you'll start to see from us from a social media perspective is what that connectiveness looks like instead of going so deep and talking specifically a certain sport, we're going to bring the power of the brand together. And so that starts with, and you alluded to this, crazy authenticity to our players. We have to project what sport is about. We can't make it cool. We've got to show up for our players so that they feel like we get sort of what their journey looks like, what it means to kind of perform at your best level.
Anything to add to that? Good?
No, I think she said it.
I love it.
Said it best.
And in terms of the platforms where that's going to live, is that TikTok? Is that Meta? Is that Snap?
Yeah, so we're focused on Instagram and TikTok for right now, kind of really getting those platforms right, extending into YouTube as well. I think obviously we want to make sure that we're focused on, developing content that's channel right. And so I think we feel like that's the best, if you will, bang for our buck, given where our target audience is and what our growth goals are.
Selfishly, I have more questions about social media influencers. In terms of so sports, fashion, what kind of verticals do you think are going to be in the gaming? And what's the breadth you think?
Yeah, so when we think about bringing the power of the brand together, I think it starts with what our story is, which we've rarely told on one platform, which is that we are the most innovative equipment company. From a transformation perspective, though, it needs to be more than just equipment. It needs to feel like we're the most coveted brand in sport. And so I would say it's essentially about bringing that to life. From an influencer perspective, it's also making sure that, again, there's a thread of authenticity throughout everything we do. But that doesn't always mean you have to capture what's happening on the court. I think what we're going through right now is this renaissance of mattering as much off the court as we matter on the court.
Well, so let's talk about partnership. Really, where that lives. I think it might be actually some content you want to share in a second.
So one of the things I think is interesting about this partnership is most people tend to think about a creative agency as the group that places spots on television. We've got 6, 7 or more commercials that'll be in the Super Bowl on Sunday. That's what people think about us primarily for. But what I think is missing is in some cases, the brand doesn't need that moment right then and there. And right now, with Wilson, we're not at the place where we're ready to put wonderful creative out in the world just yet. But it doesn't mean you can't partner well. And so we've been working on ways to really bring the Wilson brand to life in places that matter and are authentic to them, and make sure the partnership is strong through that dimension. So we're working on a lot of strategy work, but there's some examples we want to show around how we've been partnering off screen. And so if you look here, last year in Cannes Lions, we had Sport Beach, Stagwell Sport Beach. 72andSunny was involved in ideating that idea, bringing that color to life, literally the design work to life on the screen. But it doesn't make sense to talk about sport from all levels without someone that actually is a supplier of equipment to sport. And no one is better than Wilson in that case. At that time, they were not a client of ours. They were just a brand that had all the balls in the world and that all the best players in the world were using for their sport. So it made sense to reach out to Amanda to see if she wants to be involved. It was a quick, yeah, it makes total sense. And as you can see, the display is freaking gorgeous. And we didn't just display the balls, we actually used them in sports. So now you have James Worthy and Sue Bird and others using the balls from Wilson in activity at Cannes on the beach. And then what happens was, after that, sorry, I'm going the wrong direction here. We then cemented our relationship. Things are going great, we're working on strategy. How else can we bring Wilson to the forefront? Well, they're always at the Super Bowl. One, they're on the field. You'll see them on Sunday. But before they get to the field, they have an activation that's huge in the football, this Super Bowl experience. So every year, you go to the convention center where you can kick and run and all the things. You'll find an amazing Wilson exhibit where they're literally building balls in their booth. So you can go over there tomorrow, which I recommend you do, and watch a football being made from leather to sewn together, the bladder being inserted, the ball being laced up, and then it's blown up in full life right in front of you. And so what we did yesterday was we put a content studio in their booth. We highlighted all the Wilson's history, we highlighted the balls, and then we had chats that we recorded in the booth with athletes, and marketing executives. And all this content will be made available on our socials in a few weeks, and on her socials in a few weeks, and then the marketers and athletes that we interviewed will give it to them, and they will also be able to share it on their socials. So what it does is it allows the Wilson brand to be communicated in an authentic way from professionals without having to spend $7 million for 30 seconds in the Super Bowl. And so it's just another approach to trying to make sure the brand is connected and strong through creativity without necessarily needing to be a 30-second or 60-second spot.
And so when I think about the brand, obviously everyone knows about the official sports ball every single entity. We have Damaune is rocking it right now, as you both are. You have the apparel. How do you guys think about that intersection between what is the legacy, playing utility of the sport, and then align that to the cool factor that usually people want to wear, something that makes them cooler than they would wear otherwise?
Yeah, so my job is literally to take the equity that we've built up over the years. I talked about being innovative. I talked about being trusted from an equipment perspective, and really leverage that and transcend that. But that has to be more than just the features and the tech in a product. It needs to get into that emotional headspace, the brand space, if you will. And so it's how do we leverage who we are? And in some cases, right now, we're really focused on tennis, and come into that category and give you the confidence that we not only make the racket in your hand and we innovate on that, kind of tirelessly, but we also can outfit you on the court. And one of the, I guess, insights there is that you play better if you feel like you look better, if you feel better. And so each garment that comes out that's performance tennis wear has what we call stealth technology in it. We're trying to, I would say, what you see from us is much more elegant, but it has technology in it. We understand the player, it's built for the player, and so forth. So I think it's bridging that gap between, like you said, who we were, and then in order to earn a place in her or his wardrobe, I think it's really making sure that you deliver not only on performance, but of course on style.
It's funny because I think Deion Sanders, Deion, Coach Prime Time, whichever one of the names you want to refer to, has said this back in the 80s, right? If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good. And so they're literally like bringing that to life with the gear, because when we started chatting about what Wilson's up to, my first statement to her 2 years ago was, when I was a kid, I just wanted to wake up on Christmas morning and have a Wilson ball under the tree. Like, that was my dream. And now I wake up and say, I would like to have some Wilson gear under the tree, because the materials and the items that they are producing, they're not just like clothes to wear. It's actually really high quality stuff. And if you live in New York or LA or Chicago or Houston,
Minneapolis.
Yeah, go to one of the stores and you'll walk in and be really, really surprised. There's a 100-year-old authenticity to the place, but all the gear is stuff you'd want to wear. It's really, really quite nice.
You look very tech savvy in that, whether it's stealth in your
Medium does that.
And by the way, as someone that spends a lot of money in Cannes, I'm glad the ROIS for the Cannes investment worked out.
There it is.
I love it, man. So let's talk about, there's all the tried and true, pick an athlete, you put something on them, you put it in the distribution channel. What are some of the newer trends, newer ways to break in through events, through obviously social, community building? What are things you guys are seeing that, whether you're employing now or you plan on employing in the future?
Yeah, I think for a brand that's on so many fields and courts as the official ball, or a racket, if you will, I think it's really important that we go beyond what I always say to my team, passive placements. It's not about showing up in more places. It's about kind of shaking our consumers and our players in this world out of the malaise that glosses over where our brand is and pulling it all together. So I think storytelling and where that storytelling lives is really important in terms of how you talk to your consumers. So social is a really big piece of this. D2C is really important for us to be able to control our brand story and our brand message, and really putting the full, I'd say, digital ecosystem together alongside experiences like Damian was talking about, where you can go to the NFLX and see product made before your eyes. So I think it's getting the mix right, which I think everyone in this room probably, spends a full day doing every day. But I think it's also being really cognizant of, and we're talking about this now as well, what are your KPIs? What do we need to do? We enjoy really high levels of awareness. Now it's about engagement and really developing more brand advocates.
Do you think of this as an eventual, so how much of the business is a focus on retail versus D2C? Is that something you guys are going more towards lower funnel D2C? Is retail tried and true?
It's really like if we think about putting the player at the center of every decision that we make, we need to be wherever the player shops and however the player shops. There's a reason you would go to a specialty tennis shop. There's a reason you might instead choose to go to wilson.com. So our job is to really just make sure that's a fluid experience with the best storytelling, with the right access to information, help you make the best choice on equipment and now apparel.
Beautiful. So if you got to think about, we have the $7 million 30-second spots happening in a few days now, and you guys are spraying a lot of these things. How do you think about ways that if you were to apply $7 million outside of that scenario, they can either, whether it's more about reach or about hyper-focused athletes, I mean, when those discussions are happening, where do you think that that's where I want to put my money as opposed to in the big game?
Yeah, I think it's what our teams do in the sports. So if you're the tennis marketing director, for example, you're really good at selling tennis rackets and tennis equipment. My job and my team's job now is to provide this additive brand halo, if you will. So if I had the extra $7 million you're talking about, I think what I'd really focus on is, and we're going to do this eventually, right, Damian, is action the strategy that we're putting into place, how we tell our story. And I do, not to kind of beat the drum again, but I do think it is about content, and it's about making sure that our story shows up in snackable, maybe long-form ways that brings the brand story to life. And so I would be remiss not to take the power of all of the great work that our sport categories are doing and put spotlights on it, essentially. And so to me, it's about those amplification tactics as well as content.
Yeah, it's important because if you're a huge tennis enthusiast and you know that Wilson is the best place to go to get equipment for tennis, that's wonderful. But if you have kids at home that play basketball and you're not thinking Wilson for basketball, why would you not give your kids the exact same high quality products for their sport? And so part of this brand halo we're talking about trying to build is when you think about Wilson, you think about the highest quality items, sports equipment, apparel, etc., things that you would want to be participating in or with. And it's hard to do that if people are only tunnel vision into this is the racket I use when I do this one thing, but I don't think about that brand any other time. So we're trying to raise the conversation out of the sport into the brand, and then that way there'll be a halo across all.
All right. So we're going to switch to some questions from the crowd here. I don't know if anyone wants to ask either Damon or Amanda. Wilson.
Pickleball and paddle tennis, or paddle, right? I noticed a little bit of a resurgence in paddle, right, which was kind of big and then it went away. How would you handicap sort of that race going forward? Pickleball is a huge league, but will paddle, is that a space for Wilson to grow?
Yeah, so there's actually, it's the most confusing thing ever. There's paddle, but there's also padel. And for us, padel, it's a bigger sport right now in Europe, and you'll start to see once the infrastructure is set in the States, that sport kind of take over. I don't know at quite the same clip as pickleball has kind of gripped the world. But what we love is that it expands our portfolio, right? So where we could drill down very deep into the tennis category, now we've got these other I wouldn't say entry points, these other access points. And I think I'm really bullish on pickle because I think it offers that opportunity, like Damian was saying, where if you're playing pickle, you might also be a parent, a player of another sport. So I see that as one of our biggest acquisition opportunities, is to reach out to those pickleball players and really bring them into the Wilson brand. But what I think is great is that it's allowing us to put Wilson on more courts and take the equity we have in tennis and really stretch that into these other segments that are growing quite quickly.
Great question. So I'm going to take a bit of a pivot here. I just saw him walk in. Rashad White, star running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and also Big Brother Big Sisters of America Hall of Famer like myself. Thank you for joining us. I'm gonna be his agent right now. I'll help my boy out. Do you guys ever do collaborations with individual NFL players? Is it more like a zoom out for the teams or the leagues or what?
We have. I think it was a couple years ago, maybe last year even. We did something with Tom Brady. So he helped us customize the game balls. So we're always this Super Bowl. Not a player, obviously. We're working with Usher, who's this obviously a halftime performer. So we always love to tell a player's story and use the canvas of the ball to be able to do that. So that's one of the ways I think you go from just being equipment to being a brand that people start to connect with at a much deeper level.
We play with Tom Brady. It's a perfect fit.
There you go. Yeah.
Exactly.
in the house.
Any other questions, guys?
All right, let's go in for
I guess we're good.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.